Sorry. Hi, this is my BioBlitz presentation by myself. And all right, got a preview there. We'll start with the red-tailed fox. I identified this via iNaturalist. I was actually going outside when I saw this. I know in Connecticut these are traditionally spotted in the local woods all the time. I live in a very heavily wooded area, and I honestly see a fox every 2 to 3 days. Most of the time they're skulking by the tree line. Most of the time you see him in groups, but this one was by himself. He was crossing the edge of my driveway. It was I think it was about 10 a.m. in the morning on a Tuesday when I was back home, and I just saw him crossing the street. He looked at me, and I got a good little picture of him here. Um, Here for my notes. One of the adaptations I've noticed of local foxes actually is a lot of them have not as bright as an orange coat as you'd expect. A lot of them like to have mud caked on them. This helps them blend in with the low kind of dark undertone of the surrounding environment. Very locally dark wooded area, so it's very easy for them to blend in with this level of mud on them. And one beneficial thing these foxes do in our area is actually control rodent populations. I know my family and a lot of other families especially have problems with mice, rabbits, not only invading gardens, but just coming to homes and just chewing through power lines and stuff like that. So foxes actually do a pretty good job of controlling the local rodent population, which is something that people really appreciate a lot. Moving on, we have the Virginia red slug. This was actually seen here in State College. When I observed this slug in the, I think it was in the commons pathway, it was just kind of in the middle of this mud pile, and he wasn't really doing anything. He was relatively slow, obviously. I mean, it was a slug. I know they feed off of vegetation, which is part of its diet. I know for their life cycle, they live about 6 to 12 months, I think, and their production consists of like eggs and hatching, and I know they produce sexually, obviously, but I think most of these slugs are seen in the flower beds near the flowers. This guy was kind of out of his comfort zone, and something beneficial that these slugs do actually is enhance soil and gardens. It digests a lot of uh, matter in soils that are found in these gardens and flower beds, and actually return a lot of good nutrients to the soil, which is a beneficial thing that these slugs do. Moving on is the dandelion. Dandelions acquire energy via photosynthesis. I actually found this one in my backyard, in the middle of the grass. He's kind of out of his area in terms of where I usually see him, which is on the side of my road in a patch of weeds. They produce asexually and germination. Something good about dandelions is that they're highly nutritious and widespread. They're a widespread form of food for herbivores. They're found, I mean, all over my yard. I mean, you can't, go 5 steps without seeing one of these guys. Yeah, they're very brightly colored, very easy for herbivores like deer to see. They don't even have to be weeded in local areas because they're always eaten by deer. Next up, we have the purple loosestrife. I also identified this via iNaturalist. One of the things I researched about this was that they live longer, especially if you're in college, because of their bigger leaves. If you see the picture down here, obviously a bright color, which doesn't come out till spring, but these big leaves that they have down here actually help them absorb not only more sunlight but store more energy, so that they live longer, outlast some of their competing organisms in the environment. Yeah, another thing is these are a great source of pollination for bees. Obviously, they have petals and flowers, but they also have these large kind of stems that are a great source of pollen for bees. These actually are one of the more common flowers you see around East Commons, where I saw these just sitting inside, ready to be planted. And I think one of the last organisms I have here is the white-toothed tree mushrooms. These are actually one of the more common things I see back home in Connecticut. These organisms are found almost all the time on stumps, spotting trees and logs. They're decomposers, so they're decomposing these trees and dead animals into nutrients that can return to the soil. They produce asexually, and they spread their spores via spread their offspring via spores, and they grow very fast. These are very beneficial to the local ecosystem, especially back home, because a lot of dead trees and logs organisms are decomposed very quickly via fungal, these white-toothed tree mushrooms and other types of fungus. And oftentimes you see these just on a walk, absolutely engulfing a tree or something like this, which is very interesting because you wouldn't expect to see a ton on one, or you expect to see so many, but there are always a ton engulfing these dead or dying trees. Some of the struggles I had identifying some of these animals in my experiments or my research were slight differences. I know, especially for the white-toothed fungus or the mushrooms I was observing, that oftentimes it was hard to identify them in comparison to other types of white fungus in the area. Very slight differences in terms of like size and shape of the cone of the mushroom made it kind of hard to identify what specific one it was. So that took a while. Yeah, I said slight differences in size. Uh, oh, and this was kind of a major one is colors based on time of day. I know in the BioBlitz notes, field notes, observers like to write down the time of day they observe something. I do think that the weather and time of day can observe the color or the light at which you see something. So something that, let's say, you're seeing in direct sunlight might appear white, but if you're looking at it at 1 p.m. and you see this and it's bright light, it's white. If you look at the same thing in 10 a.m. and it's darker out and it's rainy, it might appear gray. So observation based on time and weather is very important, and I think that was something that actually played into identifying some of the plants that I was looking at. Yeah, moving on to my research question. I was asking how helpful are fungi in cleaning the forest and helping our world, because I actually am very interested in fungi and how they help our world, not only in terms of breaking down organisms, but also like what they do in terms of benefiting like people and what health benefits provide. And for my experiment or my hypothesis, I proposed that I believe that the fungus is one of the most important factors in the forest's ability to support life and grow organisms, and a lack of them would cause depletion in forest life. Sorry. One of the articles I found said that fungus could called "Fungus Could Save the World." Uh, Basically dove into a discussion about how fungal types have been identified increasingly much, or increasingly so in recent years. The graph that I have down here just shows that a log or category or a log of fungal type or fungus types has just increased exponentially recently in editions published by scientists. And basically, the article goes on to say how many of these types of fungus not only benefit humans, but are just increasingly studied by scientists and are found to just provide limitless benefits not only to people, but just the environment in terms of like ways in which they, on a smaller scale, improve the environment in terms of not only introducing nutrients, but just cleaning up bacteria and other sorts of harmful things that normally we would not think about affect us. And yeah, here's the experiment I designed. This is more to test the value of fungus in the forest and proving why they are about a valuable asset. This is more of a long-term experiment, but basically what I set up is two to three plots of forest should be assembled over the course of maybe a year or two. Base level of soil, a couple trees, uh, a mock forest essentially. And what I'm saying is that you should have these three different plots of forest isolated in three different areas. One should be the control, being no fungus in a plot of forest, and then two others will be two different types of fungus. Preferably one will be white tooth fungus, and one will be another type of fungus. And what we'll be testing here is how much of each type of nutrients we see in the soil after a length of time. Uh, this is an experiment that would take a short amount of time. This would be rather lengthy because we will be testing like the change in difference in nutrients over time. But what we'll be looking at is in comparison to control, which will be no fungus, how the presence of fungus, which I hypothesize being extremely beneficial in helping the forest, provide nutrients. We'll be comparing the fungus forest plot of land to the non-fungus plot of land, and how the different level of nutrients are, how they are just extremely different, and how much plant growth we see like resulting from this in terms of what we're looking at. And then for references, I use iNaturalist for all of my animals. So, or all my organisms. So yeah, that was my only reference in terms of looking at organisms. Thank you.